Welcome to VMworld 2015. This is SolidFire's first whiteboard series. We've got a couple of great guests with us here, fellow V experts. Guys, introduce yourself for the audience.
Good afternoon, Keith. My name is Jeremiah. I am one of the principal architects here at SolidFire.
My name is Gabriel Chapman. I am a cloud architect here at SolidFire.
And my name is Keith Norby. I'm a business development manager managing VMware. And we're here to recap the keynote from this morning. We just got done with it. We came over here and we've got fresh thoughts. So anyone want to kick off with a couple ideas of what they thought from the keynote?
Sure. So I think it was, they're interesting as the VMware keynotes always are, right? So we got a couple glimpses into some new things from a tech standpoint, just around particularly a lot of the inner cloud operability. How do we move workloads from an on-premises VMware environment into a vCloud Air environment? But I think really the container story at the end kind of stole the show, which was a little ironic because at the end of the session you start seeing people filing out. But I think that probably the last 35 or 40 minutes that they went through the container story and the Photon story was really, frankly, one of the most interesting pieces of tech I've seen come out of VMware in a while, in a way that wasn't offensive to the open source roots of the project that it was looking to integrate. So, good stuff all the way around, but for me, the containers and Photon story really stole the show.
Yeah, I actually would have liked to have seen Kit get a little more time on stage. It seemed like it was a lot more devoted to kind of this kind of future defining of what I call the run everything in the world on the hyper-native hybrid cloud application-centric data center of tomorrow with a DevOps container. That was pretty much the entire keynote series of addresses, and it was kind of interesting because I was the V Brown Bag guys had a bingo card, and which I couldn't get the stickers to come off of, but I did cross everything out. I did not get bingo, and if I was playing the drinking game at home, I probably would have passed out after the first 17 instances of cloud or native or hybrid.
Now, but was that a cover all card? You have to cover all it was just bingo because you got pretty close to covering them all.
I did get bingo. I got bingo with microsegmentation, microservice, mindshare, on-prem, and on-premises.
There we go. Leave it to V Brown Bag.
Bingo. Bingo keynote. But no, going back to it though, I think it would have been nice to have Kit have a little more time up there to really kind of go over some of the future, dive a little deeper into the Photon and Lightwave products, and see exactly what that's actually going to take place, and define some of the use case and how a customer. I mean, for me, we do a lot of discussion. You hear a lot about containers always, Docker and CoreOS and Rocket and all this, and Kubernetes, and all that space is very hot right now. One thing I do find it interesting is VMware being able to tie back to those containers a form of management and understanding beyond just the standard virtual machine, and extending their orchestration solution into the container space will make it a very compelling piece of technology for customers.
Yeah, so let's touch on that for a second because it's interesting. Containers, Docker, CoreOS, Meso, all these open source things that are happening at breakneck speed, moving faster than anybody can predict at this point. But yet we have the gap of the traditional infrastructure, and Kit kind of highlighted today where, these new containers that are being built don't necessarily have a connection point for the classic VMware tools, and so we've got people here at VMworld that are running vSphere environments, but they really didn't have a great way to have any first-class connections into containers. How did that strike you guys in terms of his announcements towards the new connection points and the integrated containers?
Well, so there's two challenges, right? One is that the event horizon for containers is just a little bit further than I think your standard VMware admin today has any real ability to see. Right, so I think that there were a lot of people at the keynote this morning who saw a whole bunch of things that they don't feel like are relevant to what they're doing today. And so the first question is, in a traditional enterprise with traditional workloads, what role do containers play? What are the use cases that are going to be able to really drive the adoption of that? And then second, can VMware cross the gap between the enterprises that they're very well entrenched in and that they have licensing vehicles in place in, and the people who are actually using containers today who are categorically not VMware customers, right? So the question is Photon enough? Can they monetize it? Can they integrate themselves into the open source communities that are driving most of the innovation and development there? I don't know, but at least this seems like more so than integrated OpenStack. Integrated containers seems like an honest effort. It seems like they put it out there. They innovated both at the the individual container level as well as integrating things back into vCenter. There's an honest effort there to try to be part of that community, which as long as they can continue that honesty and as long as they can continue that positioning where all of those open source, regardless, what do we see? 3 of them demonstrated on stage today, that those are valid ways to market and that they're going to make that better. I have big hopes for it. I mean, this was more than I expected out of VMware on the container side.
No, I agree as well. And I think really tying and relating the container story to the everyday VMware admin who more than likely isn't running a massive dev shop with a lot of in-house developers or delivering the kind of applications that can take advantage of a containerized workload, right? I mean, we look at the traditional organizations that are doing and leveraging the containers. They are the big cloud providers. They are the Web 2.0 giants. Those are the types of companies, and there's probably, say, maybe 200 of them in the planet right now that can really take and run from a container solution running on my laptop and put it into production with continuous integration, continuous delivery, that lean, agile type infrastructure delivery model. The vast majority of VMware customers, it mimics very much the vast majority of IT customers, which is that 90% of small, medium business, small, medium enterprise customer who has maybe 10 VMware hosts and anywhere between 50 and 400 virtual machines. For them, they don't have the standard container workload. Now, if VMware can tie back to that customer base a use case and the ability to streamline and deliver containerized workload to the customer's benefit and generate a revenue stream around that, that's going to be the big deal.
That'll be huge.
Yeah, so 2 other quick things. One was mentioned was Evo SDDC. So it was this concept of having multi-rack, from nothing to SDDC in 2 hours, that level of automation. Did anything strike you guys from that at a grand level of patching or automation?
I mean, in reality, what you see there is almost like a rebranding of Evo Rack, right? It's the next generation of the Evo platform. Additionally, last year it was all about Evo Rail and the small appliance for the the mid-office, robo-office, whatnot. Now you're seeing the strengthening of that Evo Rack type architecture to go into these large enterprise customers and deliver a turnkey data center solution. It'll be interesting to see where that actually goes.
Yeah. Frankly, I'd rather see less GUI and more of the pieces.
Yeah.
Like rather than delivering a UI that says, here, we can put all this together for you, I'd rather VMware come out and say, here are the chef cookbooks, here are the Puppet modules, here's the scripting or the PowerShell or all of the different things that we know are being used on the back end to do that. I would much rather them give us the Legos than put together yet another UI that has to run on yet another web server.
Okay, last topic then. SolidFire's got a lot of background in service providers. So the vCloud network was talked about today. They talked about how latency kills revenue. Great statement. It's something that I know we've been helping service providers with, but they also talked a lot about VirtuStream. Any thoughts for the 2 of you guys about the service provider, VirtuStream, or the vCloud network?
It's an interesting case. It's illustrating a large customer, a large service provider customer, and that's a space I think VMware very much wants to penetrate. And so by being able to showcase that up on the stage, it's like, hey, we're legit, we're here. Don't be afraid to buy our product when you as a service provider have traditionally not wanted to buy anything.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's confusing. I think we've got vCloud Air, we've got workloads that run there, we've got the vCloud suite, and I've got workloads that run here. Where does VirtuStream fit in? Is it SAP only? Is it a larger play? I think there's a lot of questions there. We know that acquisition just happened here recently, and to go from acquisition to Keynote is a big transition for anybody to make. There was some interesting stuff that was talked about. I'll be curious to see how it fits into not just VMware, but the larger federation and how that works, because hosting by and of itself isn't very interesting.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing that we definitely saw was cross-cloud vMotion. So that was interesting, and the ability to have hybrid apps and cross-cloud vMotion. Those were a couple of last interesting points that I had as well.
Yeah, interesting in that the networking finally works the way it's supposed to. will be more interesting if it can be cross-cloud. When I can do that to any public cloud provider, then I think the VMware value prop inside the data center is really enhanced. Until then, it's, I expect to be able to vMotion from one VMware instance to another VMware instance, and now we can do that to vCloud Air. Technically, I'm glad that they have it. It's certainly a checkbox. When that becomes multi-cloud, I think it'll be more impressive.
Yeah, most certainly. And I think, as with all things like this, the devil's in the details. I want to look underneath the covers and see how it actually works before I really pass judgment on any of it.
So skeptical.
Anybody can put a demo together and make something look pretty and look like it's working, but I would guess that there are some significant caveats associated with what that cross-cloud vMotion looks like.
Yep. All right, guys, thanks. That's been our VMworld 2015 recap of the keynote. Thanks, guys, for your opinions and thoughts.
Thank you.
Have a great show.